welcome to my latest one. So this is Spooky2. No, this is Spooky2 cold laser and PEMF. But my presentations are explicitly for Spooky for beginners, and so I'm not going to be talking about waveforms and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to be talking about the basics of, gee, how do I actually use the cold laser and PEMF? That's the intent. Okay, so let's go on from here. All right. So I got 4 parts to this presentation. I've got the introduction, which is what this is. We're going to specifically talk about the cold laser. We're going to talk about the PEMF coils, and then I have some wrap-up stuff to do. So for me, in my presentations, one of my goals is when you get done with this, you can terminate this, and you're going to be hooking up your cold laser and running it, or hooking up your PEMF coil and running it. That is really my goal. If assuming it's not already done, and if it's already done, then they'll get some other good pointers of how to use it and pros and cons and that sort of stuff. And then we have a bunch of Q&A we'll do at the end, and at the end, I'll talk about any spooky subject you want. I'll try to answer any questions you have, so it doesn't have to be on just the topics here. First, let me talk about who I am. I've been using my Spooky since I guess going on 7 years now. Lost track. I'm a techie. Okay, I've been doing tech stuff for decades, literally at this point. I am not a frequency practitioner. If you want to talk about should I use this frequency or that frequency for my warts, I am not the person. Should I use this preset or this waveform or whatever? I know what they are, but I can't tell you which is the best for you. Actually, no one can tell you what's the best for you, but the practitioners are a lot better at figuring out that stuff. They spend a lot of time treating people, and they know, well, if I do this or this, it seems to work, that sort of stuff. That's just not who I am. I'm a techie. I'm here to help you use your Spooky and figure it out on your own. And for most people, that's enough. So I've been a Spooky user. Maybe it's only been 6 years. I currently have 2 GX generators. I have 16 XM generators. 15 of them are in the room with me. I have a colloidal silver kit. I've had a central plasma since 23, so now I've had it for going on 2 years, and I've had a scalar since last March. And that was the order I got things in. And at the beginning of the slides and whatever, my email's there. You're welcome to contact me about anything spooky you want to. I'm also a moderator and group expert in the Spooky2 Right for Life Facebook group. I'm very active in there. That's a big group. And there's a lot of people who've done a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people who want to help others. That's the whole point. So if you're not in that group, you really should look at it. Although a lot of people really dislike Facebook. I'm really not a Facebook fan, but it works really well for what we're doing. Again, that's my email address at the top, spookytechhelp@gmail.com. And that's my Telegram group as well. And that has about 160 members these days. So you're welcome to contact me either way. So for me, it's really important to say why I do the presentations. What I've found is that, the people buy Spooky because they have something they want to treat. They want to take control of their own health. A lot of people have major problems like cancer or Lyme or that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, a lot of people who buy Spooky have close to zero computer skills. And things that everybody thinks are really simple are not for you. Oh, here, just download and install this. Yeah, well, Microsoft will do everything they can to make sure you can't do that. And you guys know what I'm talking about there. So, I mean, I see that as a need. And the Spooky system is actually, if you've used it much, it looks really complex. It's far easier than it was in 2016. It's actually gotten much easier, but it started out as a very technical system, and it's still a relatively technical system, at least it can be. And so that's why a lot of the videos and that seem, they're very technical, because that's what these people grew up with. And that's why I'm trying to do this. So, and one of the things that got me into this last summer is I was on Facebook, and this woman connected in, and she had bought a plasma the previous fall and just couldn't get it to work, and she just stuck it in her closet. And that really bothered me. I mean, for me, I spend a lot of money in my plasma, and anybody who has Spooky has spent a lot of money on it, and it really was a problem for me that she couldn't use it. So I spent whatever time it took, and we got it running on her so she could treat the cancer she was working on. Let's see. Let me see where am I in things? Did I lose track of this? What am I talking? Okay, good. And that particular woman, it was an interesting conversation because she had bought it for her breast cancer and she couldn't get it working. So she had gotten something else and stuck this in the closet. And so she had been using something else for about 6 months. And so she really wanted to get this working. So I set up an appointment. So we did a Zoom call so we could do things together. And so when she got on the Zoom call, she had just come back from her doctor and all her numbers were way up. All her indicators were really, and she was just devastated. And so I got her to calm down and we worked through stuff and got everything working. And then she went in and started using the Spooky Cancer protocol. And I checked back with her in about 6 to 8 weeks to see how things were going. And I hadn't heard from her, so I assumed things were going well. And yes, everything was working fine in Spooky. And she had just been back from her doctor again, and her numbers were way down. And so and that's the reason I helped her. I mean, it drives me crazy. People spend the money and because I know it works, but I know it can be a challenge to get it working. And so I do these things to try to simplify it because actually Spooky can be very simple. And I try to do it at that level. Okay, so let's talk. We're going to launch into the cold laser here. So the cold laser consists essentially of we'll talk about glasses in a minute. Essentially of the this is the laser twin, and it has these nifty little rubber things on the end. I'll go into those in a minute. And an adapter because everything in the Spooky world connects into what's called a BNC connector, and that's what this is for. So this will take what looks like an earphone jack, plug it in there, and plug it into your generator, and then you can use the laser. That's what it's for. It's good for eyes, nose, mouth, small single points. I've used it for imprinting liquids. Haven't been all that thrilled about it. I had a little bottle and I put one of them, stuck one in the top to try to imprint that way. And some people swear by it. I wasn't particularly impressed by it, but I tried it anyway. I've changed my imprinting stuff a lot since then, and so I might try it again, but that's something you do with it. The other thing down here is the wrist laser. And the wrist laser, the intention is literally to attach to your wrist. That's the main thing. So it can actually put frequencies essentially directly in your blood. One of the things about the cold laser doesn't penetrate very deep at all. It's just the nature of the type of laser it is, the frequency and the power and all that. And so the veins and the arteries in your wrist are very close to the top, so it can easily put frequencies directly in your bloodstream. So that's a really interesting way to do treatments from that point of view. The other, the cold laser twin, I mean, I've used it for all the various places, and it does work. It's a different sort of thing. But obviously, it's a very small pinpoint thing, so it doesn't have a huge spread. The wrist laser has 5 lasers in it, so it gets a little better. Maybe it's 4, nope, 5 lasers, and so it gets a little better spread of the laser stuff. And then, of course, you have the ever popular sunglasses that come with it. And for the most, I never use those, by the way, ever. As long as you're not looking at the laser, you don't have a problem. The laser power in the Spooky is right at the bottom edge of what they say could damage your eyes. And so they include these sunglasses with it, and they're very, very dark sunglasses. But don't feel like you have to use them. Obviously, if I was using the cold laser in my nose or whatever, or I was trying to do a blemish or whatever, I have that near my eyes, I would use it at that point to make sure there's no problem. But that's the thing you need to do for them. Also, the wrist laser comes in handy for other things. You can use the wrist laser to treat muscles and that sort of stuff by holding it on that area. It actually comes with this little strap down here, a little Velcro strap that attaches on this that extends it. So yeah, it's made to wrap around your wrist, but if you want to put it around your thigh or possibly all the way around your back, you can do it that way. But it's a very good way for pain and that sort of stuff. So that's what the cold laser does. It works really well. Now, the best uses of it. Well, it's great for eliminating pain, swelling, spasms. It helps to increase functionality, so joints and that sort of stuff. But remember, it's not a really deep flow, so it's going to be surface level joint issues. It does increase blood flow. That's important to know. So it really helps the healing. I've used it for on tooth infections. I've used it for imprinting liquids. What I don't find it that great at is it's not so good at killing because of its frequency limitations and its power level and its penetration. Um, it's not so good at high frequencies. There's limits of how, basically the way this thing works is you have this laser at a certain frequency, and then the Spooky software turns the laser on and off at a given, at whatever frequency you're trying to do. Well, these LEDs don't switch on and off at megahertz frequencies. It just won't work. So it's better for the lower frequencies, which actually includes most of the stuff in the databases. The databases have some super high frequency, but most of that stuff is actually a pretty low frequency. So it's pretty good for that. Yeah, anything that's more than about half an inch deep, it's not going to reach. And even half an inch is a lot. So keep that in mind from when you're trying to treat. It's really good at surface sort of things and just under the surface. There are some advantages of the delivery methods. It's generally safe to use with electronic implants, but you need to avoid the actual implant. There is a scientific view that lasers can somehow create magnetic fields, which is what you have to worry about with a magnetic implant. I don't subscribe to that, but having said that, I've read some articles on it, and I read the articles trying to figure out how could it do this, and it wasn't answered. That's not the point. The point is, it's generally safe to use, but you wouldn't want to use it over your over your pacemaker or over your something that's pumping your insulin pump, that sort of stuff. So avoid the electronic areas. It doesn't create any electricity. It shouldn't be a problem, but I'd avoid them anyway. Warnings, and this is really important. Number one, don't use a laser for cancer. Actually, the Spooky software talks about using the laser for certain types of cancer, but it's the current thinking and research is the problem is the laser actually does increase blood flow, and it does. I mean, that's a proven medical fact, which is really good for healing. However, you really don't want to increase the blood flow for cancer. That's how it grows. So you should not use it for any cancer stuff. You shouldn't use it. Obviously, you shouldn't use it around the eyes because it's got enough brightness and whatever, it can actually damage your eyes. You could use it, and I have used it up here on my face, which is close to the eyes, but definitely not up here or whatever. I wouldn't use it anywhere near my eyes. Avoid implanted electronics. Don't, avoid those if you can. And the last one is only use laser presets. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, what a laser preset is. And the reason is there's only two devices in Spooky Land that you can damage with the software, actually. And the laser is one of them. The laser presets are set up very specifically for the laser, and some of the other presets are not, and they can actually drive the laser and damage it. They won't damage you, but they'll damage the laser. So make sure you only use the laser presets. The other one actually is the central. The central can be picky as well, and so that's why you're only supposed to use the plasma presets in it, which is off subject, but I wanted to put it in there. So it's important with this, only use the laser presets. Where am I? Okay, hardware. So hardware hookup, this is pretty straightforward. Remember, the laser, you should never use the boost. Do not use the boost with it. You need to hook it up directly to out1 on whatever type of generator you're using. So out1, this is on G1, out1 on G2, or out1 on the XM. So don't use a boost. That's another thing that can burn out your laser because it's too much voltage for it. Keep in mind, you can only plug one device into a generator. I've seen people do all kinds of fun things. No, you need to plug only one, okay? And the last thing, and I'll show you an example later, is that one of the things, sometimes it's really nice, and you have your laser, and it has a 3-foot long cord on it, but sometimes that's not enough. This is actually a link. You can actually get a 50 ohm BNC extension cable. That's actually for a 3-foot. You can use longer. So if you need to get a 6-foot or even a 12-foot cable, feel free. You can buy those from Amazon. You can hook it in. So one of them has this type of connector on one end, and the other type is the BNC connector like you'd find on the laser. and you can hook that up and you can extend it. So don't feel like you do that. Uh-oh, it's too short. It's not a problem. It's not a big deal. You can do that and use something from Amazon for, as a matter of fact, did I just order one? I think I did. For like $6 or $7 is what it was, what that one cost if you're in the US. Okay, so you can use, like I said, you can use any software with a laser, has to be an L, all right? And the shell has to be an L as well. So let's go off into demo land because I wanted to, oh, okay. Okay, so here is my, here is my test system that I use. Notice this is a Windows 7 test system because it uses less memory and it's just as fast. And Spooky works fine on a Windows 7 system. I actually here in my house, in my den here, I have a Windows 10 system that I'm using. In my and this is, I do all my remote work in here. In my living room, I have a Windows 11 system, and that's where my Plasma and my Gen X are, because that's where I do all my that's where I do my biofeedbacks for the most part. And in my bedroom where my scaler is, that's an old Windows 7 laptop. And it's old, it's like 14 years old. The display doesn't work well on it. And so it became a Spooky system. And that's a Windows 7 system, like I said, and it runs just fine. So, and it certainly in the Q&A stuff, if you have hardware questions like that, I can answer those. It's not a problem. I've actually run Spooky a year ago on an XP system, and it still runs on an XP. If you have an XP system to run on that, although I ran into a problem with XP, the XP had a problem with the USB ports because the particular one I had would only support 3 devices, period. And I wanted more than that. And so it wasn't a big deal, but I had the XP laying around and I wanted to try it. I really wouldn't recommend that. Windows 7, though, I don't have a problem with. Okay, so here we are. So let's look at presets. And I meant to go do this, but I didn't. If we go look at heal, I can't do it in there. Miscellaneous, cold laser. That's a really handy thing to have, isn't it? Why do they put it in there if there's no cold laser in there? Well, having said that, actually you can do detox, terrain, I think. Laser, yep. So these are all the things. And by the way, the blood cleansing thing is a very popular one to run for a lot of different things. And so again, this is something you're going to put on your wrist because it's going to run this. This runs for about 2 hours. It's supposed to be an excellent one. I've run it on my wife and it seemed to help for the problems she was having at the time. So again, so this is an L, it means it's cold laser. It's set up to run the cold laser, and that's why it exists. It has the right settings. Now, the other interesting thing about this is if we go back into home here and we look at shell, which I spend a lot of time in, because if you want to run anything from the programs tab, the first thing you need to do is load a shell program. It's not good to add it to anything else, just load a shell. One of the things that's interesting, this is the only thing for cold laser. It's a very single thing. It doesn't have 29 different options. This is what you're going to load. You're going to put this in, and then you're going to put in whatever programs you want. Do I have any good examples? Abdominal pain wouldn't be a good one. I've actually used it on abscesses. For instance, you could do an abscess. These are low enough frequencies, no problem. You could run this on either types of the cold laser. Certainly that's one of the things to use this for. But again, you definitely need to, first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a shell preset and then add in whatever programs you want. But it'll have the correct stuff in it. That's the important thing to remember. And you don't want to use any of these other shells with the cold laser. All right. So let me go back to this. Okay. So this is the cold laser summary. Cold laser summary is don't use it for cancer or around your eyes. That's really important. It's I can't stress that enough. You don't want to feed cancer, so don't use it for that. You can use it anywhere on your body except your eyes. So you use it on your head, ears, neck, wherever. It doesn't have any of those restrictions that contact mode does. I did my last presentation was on contact mode, and you're not supposed to do contact mode above your shoulders. So you can't. You're not supposed to use it on your neck or head. But the cold laser you can use anywhere you want to. Okay. You can use it if you have electrical implants, but avoid the actual implant area. So that's another important thing. For the most part, the only other thing you can use anywhere is remote, and remote works really well. It takes longer, but it does work. So keep that in mind for those people that, gee, I've got these implants. What do I do now? It's really good for pain issues and accelerating healing as long as it can get to the area that it is. Obviously, if you have a problem deep in your hip socket, it's going to have trouble reaching that. It's not a good choice for that because it has a fairly moderate penetration level, meaning not very far. Okay. It's a really good use to place frequencies directly into your bloodstream. You're essentially imprinting your blood with the frequencies you want. So, and that's an interesting way to distribute the frequencies throughout your body since the blood goes everywhere. Use only the laser presets. That's really important. I can't stress that enough. You don't want to burn out your laser. So only use the laser presets. Never use it with the Spooky Boost. Same issue. You'll burn out the laser and then you'll have to buy another one. And finally, you can use the 50 ohm BNC cable extension if you need to. I'm actually having some issues, and we'll talk about that in a little while. And I have a cable somewhere that I'm going to start using, so I can do that stuff, because I find that the length of these things, if it's like 1 meter, it's just not long enough for me. But I can, for $6 or $7, I can put an extension on it and do whatever I want. Okay, moving on to part 3. The PEMF coil, which I really like, and I use it a lot. I use it much more than I do the cold laser. So what the heck is it? Well, the PEMF coil is a device that converts an electrical signal into a magnetic signal. Think of it as an electromagnet. This is what I call this black lollipop. It is a fairly low power signal, so you need, you can't just set it anywhere in the room it's going to work. No, it really needs to be against your skin or against your clothing. Okay. Because of its electrical nature, because I came out of an electronics background, they have a higher output at lower frequencies. Okay. And I've actually seen charts in places that talk about, well, the best place, the frequency range to use the coil is in the 1K range, or somewhere in there, or even lower. And yes, it'll put out more power. It will at those, but just because it's low power doesn't mean it doesn't work. I'm a serious believer in imprinting holographic stickers. And so when you imprint a holographic sticker, you put frequencies on it, and then you can put that sticker wherever you are. And I know they work because I use them a lot. Well, I got news for you. The amount of power that thing is putting out is almost non-existent. It is frequency by association is what that is. The PEMF coil puts out much more power than at any frequency level. And so while yes, it is more powerful at low ones, that doesn't mean it doesn't work at high ones. I don't have any problem with running anything on a coil, in my opinion. I use it for all kinds of stuff. I really like it. The penetration is much deeper than cold laser. It'll get to anything in your body. So that's not a problem. So I really like it from that point of view. So the best use, again, it's a good healing thing. That's what it's good for. It'll decrease the healing time. It'll reduce inflammation and pain, and increase functionality. It's not so great at killing. And that's because the waveform it tends to use is a very gentle waveform. And so, and rather than a hammer beating on something until it's killing, it sort of is nicer. Please die, please die. I mean, literally. But it will work. It will work on those. So it's not as good as I'd like to see, but I've used it for that. And if that's what you need to do, use it for that. It just takes a little longer. I have used it for tooth issues. I've used it for bone fractures. It worked really well, bone fractures, by the way. I've used it for imprinting liquids. One of the things I do is I have a recipe I use for pain oil. And I'm using fractionated coconut oil or olive oil, and I put it in a little 2-ounce bottle, and I have a preset that I use. I put it on there, and I'll run it for 2 or 3 days. It takes that long, but it does an excellent job on killing pain. And you can always send me an email, and I'll send you the preset. It's not a big deal. It's not. not copyrighted or everything, and it works really well. And you probably have everything right now to do it. So it's really nice for that. By the way, in the bone fractures, a couple of years ago, I actually broke a bone in my foot, which is really ugly. They don't heal well and all that. So I went down, and yes, it was broken, and they put a boot on it and all that sort of stuff. And then I had to go back in 3 weeks for to get X-rayed and see how it's doing and all that sort of stuff. And it's really common, by the way, for bone stuff, feet. Sometimes you need surgery and all that. Anyway, so I come home, and I was using the PEMF coil. That was the best thing to use on it. I used that a lot on it. I went back in 3 weeks, and he couldn't find the fracture in the in my X-ray. I kept the boot on because it still hurt. One of the things about bone fractures is they hurt for a long time, but it still hurts. So I still did that. But I had a friend who fractured her foot about the same place, about the same time. And my pain in 3 months, I was back to normal. In 3 months, it was still hurting her like mad. So I really like the PEMF for this. It works really well for that sort of stuff. I like the PEMF because you can use it anywhere on the body. You can head, eyes. That's the if you have eye problems, I like the PEMF coil for that because you can stick it on your temple. You can put it on your eye, sort of like a pirate's patch, except you have a hole in the middle or whatever. It has much deeper penetration than the laser, so I really like it. It's a good device, and I do use it a lot. So warnings for it. If you have implanted electrode devices, you do not want to use this. It's creating a magnetic field, and it will interfere with your, or it can interfere. Some of the newer devices, it won't. And you can easily ask your physician, if you have one of these, can I use a low power PEMF device and all that? And if they know what that is, they may say, yeah, you can keep magnets around, it won't hurt it. And this puts out way less than a regular magnet. So now, if you could put a refrigerator magnet around your implants and that's safe, PEMF is safe because it has far less power than that. Okay. But one of the things, again, you need to use only the coil presets. That's what they're designed for. They're designed for the coil, so that's what you should use. So how do you hook this thing up? Well, this is a little different. This one actually, you use the boost. The boost, so you hook it into the generator, and the boost has a high power port right here. And that's where you should be hooking your PEMF coil. That gives the most amount of power to it and makes it as effective as possible. So that's where I put that. The PEMF and the laser, you can't feel either one of those. You're not going to get zapped like you do in contact mode. You can't feel anything with it. So that's all the power you can is just fine. Again, only plug one device into a generator. You can't be plugging this in while you're using the remote on it or other stuff. No, this should be the only thing plugged in there. And you can use the same extension cable if you need to. Like I said, these 3-foot things just aren't enough for me. I'm not that close to the generators. And so I actually have I think I've got a 12-footer in the other room, and I have a 3-footer that's in here that I'll show you when we get done. Again, and this is the link, same link. That's for a 6-footer, but they had no, actually that's a 3-footer, but they had 12-footers and 6-footers and even longer. So if you need longer, you can, and that comes in really handy if you're doing stuff like with the scaler or you have a generator in there, and you're trying to do stuff in your bed and all that sort of stuff. Then you may be able to use one of the generators in your bed and string something over to you, that sort of stuff. So that's a really nice thing to be able to do. So I like the extension aspect. Okay. All right. So the PEMF coil is called coil in the in its preset name. The next thing is there's 2 sides to the PEMF coil. There's something that has a BN, which stands for BioNorth, and on the other side of the coil, it has the Spooky logo, and it says Spooky2. You always want to put the BN side against your skin. There's some pros and cons to that, but essentially you want to do that. That's the BN side always goes there. Now the shell presets are a little different. For the last 5+ years, there was only one coil shell preset. This is it, Spooky Coil Generator JW. But this last year, they came out, Johannes, and I can't ever pronounce his last name, came out with some other alternative presets, and we're going to talk about those. And when I go into the demo. So there's actually 4 different ones that you can use. Notice one of them is specifically for a molecular weight emulate, and the other one's having to do with if you're using 1 or 2 coils, because you can use 2 if you want to try to get more power. So demo, that is in here. So what it's talking about is in shell, and this is an interesting one, and I normally do not discuss this. I don't discuss it because there's a lot of different, if you're familiar with the remote presets, there's a bunch of them in there where they do all kinds of stuff, and I can't tell you why they're there or what they do, and reading the notes doesn't usually help. But there's a little more, I can tell you a little bit more about this. Essentially, there's an old one in here. That's because this one, the double PEMF, that preset is broken. It worked great in the last 2024 version, but the 2025 version, let me think. No, the January worked. That's right. But the new April one, it doesn't work. It just blows up. As a matter of fact, it crashes Spooky, as I remember. They'll fix that soon, I'm sure. But anyway, my point is that Spooky is really interesting. We all like to say, press the heal me button, and whatever it needs to do, it will. And you can buy things like that. I don't think they work. I just don't think that's a really good idea. Things are too fluid from that point of view. Anybody who's had a bacterial infection knows that, well, penicillin might work on it and penicillin might not work on it. There's 100 different types of antibiotics, and some work better than some don't even work on whatever you have. And I think Spooky falls into that category as well. Well, one of the things that happens, because it's still an experimenter's platform, and it is, there's people like Johannes, who's in Germany, who's a mathematician, and he's worked out things saying, well, no, this would work better, or in certain cases. And John White is open to that sort of stuff. And so he sent these JD ones to John White, and with enough information, and John put them in. So that's one of the things that gets really interesting as you grow into your Spooky, is that it's changing all the time. And so you need to, that's one of the advantages of upgrading. One of the disadvantages of upgrading is you may introduce bugs. So I tend not to upgrade most of the time, but it's nice to know what's out there. So, and I haven't tried any of these new ones yet, but I will, because I want to see what they do. I've read his stuff on it. It's a really interesting thing. If you look at this one, he has, he's professor of mathematics. He's actually tested these with people out on the German Telegram group, and so it's worth experimenting. And that's part of having a Spooky, is this, oh, this frequency didn't work, or this program didn't work, or this preset didn't work. Let's try something else. And by didn't work, generally that's measured in 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what's wrong and how you're delivering it. And so that's something you have to learn to live with your Spooky. So again, there's different things to try in here. If I'm going to do something new, next time I will do something new, I'm probably going to use this single PMF one from him and see what the results are. One of the things I find is, gee, I'm not interested in experimenting on myself. It's like, I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to try this and see if it works, and then I'm going to compare it to this. There's a whole lot of reasons I don't like doing that. One of the reasons is I just want to fix whatever's wrong. And so I'm going to do this. If it fixes it, great, I'm done. I'm not going to try something else. I'll try this, and if it doesn't work, I'll go back to the other. That's the way I do my stuff. So it's a very interesting sort of stuff. Again, I like it a lot. So and before I do the summary, you can also use the Pemf Coil with the Spooky Central. However, it's very different. So if you're going to use it, what it's used for there, it helps open up your cells so that the frequencies from the plasma can better get into your cells. What that means is, gee, if I want to run a flu program on the plasma, and I'm using the Pemf Coil with it, it's not running the flu program. It's running a single 100 hertz frequency with a spike, a really high intensity spike every now and then. I can't remember every now and then, to open up your cells. So and people get confused by that all the time. with the Spooky Central, you only run plasma presets. That's all you run. And these other devices you can run with them, they you know, they're going to do they do their own thing for the most part. So with the coil, that's what you're going to do. You're going to it's going to do a spike, and that's what it's going to do. So let's see, let's go that. So summary. Number one, only use coil presets if you're going to use the PMF coil on a generator. Always use the boost with it. That's important as well. Next one, you can use it anywhere on your body. And so I know a lot of people that try to use it for glaucoma and eye things and all that sort of stuff. Don't use it if you have electrical implants. Again, I think if you check with your doctor, because I know that a lot of the electrical implants of these days are very resistant to interference. And so, like I said, my rule of thumb would be, if I can take a magnet to it and it doesn't affect it, just a refrigerator magnet, then the PMF coil is not going to have any effect on it at all, because the PMF coil has nothing near the amount of magnetism that a refrigerator magnet does. I like it a lot to imprint oil. It takes a long time, but it works very well for them. That's the second best way of imprinting I've come up with, and I only use it on oils. And you can use the extension cable if you need to. So that's not a problem. Well, that didn't take long. All right, so let's talk about some wrap up here, and then we'll get to questions. Okay, if you'd like a copy of the presentation, you can simply send me an email and request it, and I'll get it to you generally within the next day or so. That's not a problem. The video, Spooky makes that available, but that usually takes a day or two or three to become available, and you can find those usually at spooky2academy.com. That's the easiest place to find those things. But I don't have a copy of the video, so don't ask me for it. But I can give you the PowerPoint presentation. General training resources. This is one of the reasons that comes in handy to have the presentation. YouTube, actually, the YouTube Spooky Tech Help, that's my own page. And I do a lot of really simple things in there aimed at brand new people. It's worthwhile to look there, especially if you find Spooky is very confusing, and most people seem to, at least the newer people do. So I mean, I've got everything in there, from how do you install the generators, how do you install the software, all that sort of stuff is in there. I actually just did one because I have this cold that I still haven't gotten rid of, where I wanted to do a hunt and kill with an XM generator. And since I was doing it anyway, I created a video on how to do it. So it's a nice 8-minute step-by-step, plug this in here, type this in there, that sort of stuff. So they're very basic from that point of view. So I don't talk about the pros and cons and all the different things you can do with it. That's not the purpose of my videos. My purpose is to get you started. All the other fun things you can do, you can find that out later when you understand the basics. That's my view. Vimeo.com/spooky2. I find that is the best source for Spooky2 videos. My video will be posted there as well, meaning from Spooky2 within the next couple of days. The Spooky2 Academy event list. That's where you can find all the weekly events that are going on. You can sign up for them, and you can watch past ones there. It's a really good resource that you should be looking at. There's a lot of really good videos in there. Spooky2 videos. I was just looking at it today. Some of the videos are really interesting, but they're 6 or 7 years old. But they are basics, and sometimes you can find some good stuff in there. That's why it's in there. YouTube also has Spooky2 Right videos. They used to put all those training videos on there, and sometimes they still do. I don't know the logic, but they worry about Google censoring them, and that's why they were moving to Vimeo. Vimeo is a better one. The user's guide is built into the software. If you click on the help and click on user's guide, it's in there. And so, it has all the details in it of what does this do? What does this check mark here do? And that sort of stuff. So it's a really good one. If you've never looked at it, you need to, because you may find that you can find your answers in there, what you're trying to do. There's also a quick start guide. You need File Explorer for that. Go to see Spooky2. It's in there, the quick start guide. Lastly on this, if you're going to go look at videos, I really suggest you look at videos that are made in 2023 and newer. The reason is that over the years, the interface has changed, sometimes slightly, sometimes more than slightly. And so it's really common when you're looking at these 2021 videos or 2016 videos, your Spooky2 doesn't look like that. If you can interpret what that means, that's great. If you're not sure how to do that, then you don't want to do that. All right, let's go into the Q&A stuff. Let's see. How do you measure the results you may be getting from using Spooky2? Well, I mean, there's a couple ways to do that. Generally, I tend to look for things within hours or days, depending what it is. I like to imprint holographic stickers. I use those for pain relief mostly, and I get almost immediate pain relief. My wife, I make her stuff for like her restless legs, and if she doesn't wear them at night, she has restless legs, and so those are immediate. If I'm talking about stuff I'm treating with remotes are the longest term stuff. If I have, and it depends on the condition, obviously, as well. Generally, if I'm doing a remote, I expect some sort of improvement within a few days to a week. If I don't see things within a week, it's time to pick a different program or a different whatever. If you're dealing with longer term issues, Lyme is a great example, or those sort of stuff, then one of the things that makes it that I really recommend is you keep a diary, and how you're doing every day, because one of the problems I I have, I don't notice the differences, and unless I write them down. So that's what I'd sort of recommend for that. I'd keep a diary for that, or whatever makes sense from that point of view. Let's see, I want to stop my share. Well, I'll stop it for now. And maximum. Okay. And I need to hide and slide. All right. All right. So that's out. All right. Next. Can you discuss cold laser use and program ideas for cavities? Well, certainly you can use one of the things that's there's several dental programs, and then there's the David Holliday one for cavities. And you can, for that, if you're going to use the cold laser for that, literally, I'd stick the cold laser literally in my mouth, which I've done before. You have the little have the cover on it. There it is, the little rubber cover, and then literally right in here. But you can also use the PEMF coil for that. And I like the PEMF. I've had better results with PEMF coil for dental stuff, so that's what I would recommend. But yes, you can simply use the cold laser preset or the PEMF preset and pick whatever programs you want. Or you can use you can certainly use the David Halliday stuff. And if you don't know about that, send me an email and I'll tell you what that is. Okay, so I did that one. Okay, done. I upgraded my PC to Windows 11. Now every time I reboot, I have to reinstall Spooky drivers, see the generators, and you fix this issue. That should not happen. I don't have to do that on my Windows 11 system. Why would you have to do that? So what's probably happening is that maybe you don't have the if the generator is not turned on, it doesn't discover it, and so when you start up Spooky, you get the list of 128 generators, meaning it didn't find anything. So it's a tough question to answer. A couple easy things was make sure that the generator is powered on. Make sure that it's plugged into a USB port. If you have a USB hub, make sure that's turned on. There's some issues with an AMD processor. That's another matter. If none of that helps, you need to send me an email and I'll help you work through whatever that is, because it should not happen. It doesn't happen on anybody else's. There's something odd with your situation, and then we can get that resolved. Okay, next. I feel the onset of cavity, and you're mentioning for treatment. Well, I've actually been using for my cavities, I've been using the David Halliday stuff in a remote. I've used dental infection because it kept getting infected with both with the cold laser and the PEMF. I like the cold laser a lot more. What I literally do with the cold laser, I mean, seriously, with PEMF, is I use one of my wife's headbands, I put it on, and then this goes here. I hold it on with a headband because I'm too lazy to do this, and I let it run. And so that's what I'm doing with that. I like it better. There's there was a post out today, um, in, in Facebook about this that I printed off somewhere. Um, and if you send me something, I'll make sure you get it if you can't find it. But I had a list of frequencies that somebody had found for dental stuff, and they wanted to know if anybody used them. It hadn't been responded to, but it looks interesting. At this point, I'd be using the whatever programs in there, and definitely the David Halliday 00121 as well. Okay, done. How would you use cold laser for eyes and what condition? I wouldn't use for eyes, not ever. I'm not going to get any closer out here. I would use the PEMF for eyes. That's no problem. So any of the eye programs, vision or glaucoma or any of that stuff, I would definitely use the PEMF for that, but I would never use the laser around the eyes. Can use the BNC to extend any BNC, central. Yes, and the answer to the question is, can use the BNC adapter to extend any BNC cable. Example, the generator and the central get further away. Well, the short answer is yes. But the longer answer is that may cause you more problems. And one of the things that we're talking about here, for those of you who don't know, is there's a tendency when you're using the laser to get generator errors because it locks up the generator. And so I'm not a distance person. I use different techniques, and that works 99.99% of the time. It's a different cable. You need to email me and we can discuss that. I mean, I've changed out my coax. These are the USB cables. I've changed those things out to a different type of cable, and I virtually never get generator errors. I've actually, where my stuff is, my generator is 2 feet away from my Spooky Central, and my plasma tubes on top of it. I've run that way, and I don't get errors. And so I think the hey, extend everything out, as far as you can, is one way to handle it, but it doesn't always work. This works 99.99% of the time. You need to send me an email, and I can help you figure that one out. I don't think moving it away will help personally. This is from Albina. Do you feel anything when you use the cold laser? I'm a little afraid. Oh no, you don't feel anything with the cold. It's not hot. It's called cold for a reason. It can't burn you. It's not that sort of stuff. So you don't feel anything with it. It's not a problem. Like I said, I've had it in my mouth. I didn't feel anything, and that would be pretty sensitive in there. So no, feel free. It works really well. And it works really well on muscle aches and all that sort of stuff as well. You don't feel a thing with it, but don't look at it when it's on. Okay, Sylvia, let's see. What about cold laser for leukemia? Ugh, that's a difficult one. I'm not as I told you, I'm not a practitioner. So I know leukemia is blood cancer, but I don't know where it's blood cancer. That's the problem. The blood purifier is to help your blood get purified and get rid of the bad stuff in it. I don't know what leukemia specifically is. I know you're not supposed to use the cold laser on cancer, but whether the cancer is actually in the bloodstream or not, I can't answer. So I don't. I wish I could answer that one better, but I can't. I'm sorry. That's a research one, and I just don't know the answer to that. You might want to post it in Facebook. That's a good place to see if anybody knows about that one. But you need to know more about leukemia than I do. Janice, I was told to run the blood cleanser program rarely for cancer. That was the last question. I can't answer that. I have actually seen that. Actually, I've seen that in the cancer protocols and stuff to run the blood cleanser. That implies to me that the cancer isn't actually in the bloodstream, which it may not be. Like I said, I don't have the answer to that. As long as it's not in the bloodstream, you're not going to worry about it. It's probably safe, but without me doing more research, I can't answer that question. Certainly, and I don't know who told you to run the blood cleanser program. If a practitioner told you to do it, I'd follow his advice because they know more about that than I do. If you read it somewhere, I'd do just a few more double checks to make sure. But like I said, I don't think leukemia or whatever or blood cancer is actually in your blood. So blood cleanser is to sort of clean it out. It's probably okay. Hi. Kalina. Yeah, Kalina. What's the best method for boiling water burn on the palm of the hand? That's a good question. Um, for me, what I would do if I had that, and like I said, I'm not a practitioner. There's burn programs out there, and I'd run them. Actually, I would run them on the PEMF coil. That's how I would do that. The PEMF coil is great for healing. It gets the blood flowing and all that sort of stuff. So I'd find programs in the programs tab and put them into a in the shell preset for the coil, for the PEMF coil, and run it that way. Jeremy, can I use other rodent coils? I don't know. I know what rodent coils are. I know that I'm really not allowed to talk about non-Spooky2 stuff here. I really can't answer that. Um, there's other places to ask. You can't ask that on the Facebook group because that again is spooky stuff only. So I don't. I can't tell you. I wish I could, but I don't really know. I know what they are roughly. I've seen pictures of them, but I've never done the research to figure out what they really do. So unfortunately, I can't answer your question for the rodent coils. Robert, have you experimented with using an inline Bolin impedance transformer to increase magnetic field strength? No, I haven't. I have experimented with using uh, 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 rare earth magnets in it, and that's because that's something that that Brad Johnson does. And so I played with that some, but I don't know if it works or not. And it's really interesting. In the comments from Johannes, he says don't use the magnets in the coil. But no, I've not tried to do any of that stuff. I've heard of people doing that, of using various amplifiers to increase the magnetic field from the string. My general view is that it tends to work without doing that, and it might work better, which is why people do it if you could increase the strength, but I haven't done that. Patricia, do you use PMF coil only with central? No, I actually never use it with the central. I hook it up directly to my generator where I can use shell presets, coil presets to treat directly with frequencies. So that's what I do for that. And you could use it, but no, I almost never do that. But I'm not treating cancer either. If I had cancer and I was treating with my plasma and central, then I would do it that way as well because I'd want every advantage I could get. Victoria, I've seen someone mention that PMF is good for macular degeneration. I've heard that as well, and literally for macular degeneration, actually what I've read, where is it? I'd be using my wife's headband again, and I'd be being against this side and then this side. By the way, it's a deep enough penetration to go to both eyes. And so I'd alternate on a daily basis or a treatment basis. So that's what I would do. It goes against my temple. You could go in the front, but I've heard and read that putting on your temple is the best way to do that. What about PMF osteoporosis and hernia? Or would the central with plasma be better? That's an interesting question. That's a comparison one. They're different. That's the thing. The plasma is great at killing. That's really what it does best. And yes, it delivers frequencies for healing as well. While the coil is a lot more of a healing modality, but it doesn't have near the power. But it's a different mode of delivery. Honestly, for osteoporosis or hernia problems, I'd use both. That's what I would do. I would. I'm not sure. Let's see. Would I use them at the same time? I certainly wouldn't use the. I certainly wouldn't use the everything hooked up to the central. I do a regular PEMF treatment, and that's probably I'd probably use the plasma once a day and then use the PEMF coil in between that stuff and just do both. Hang on a second. Where is this? I'm home alone and the chihuahua is barking in the background. So anyway, all right. So we're back to this. So Albina, how long do you print stickers with the coil? I don't do stickers with the coil. I'll do stickers in the remote. So I do oil with the coil, and I'll do that for 2 or 3 days. Stickers, I run those for about 2 hours. I like them. I like to run them for at least 2 hours to make sure they're printed really well. And if you send me an email, I can send you a lot more detail on how I imprint stickers. and I'm very happy with the stickers. It's one of my favorite things to do. My wife just went out of town. I just made some restless leg stickers for her, some lower back problem stickers for her, and there was something else she wanted. I can't. Oh, she has stomach problems, so I have a sticker that helps her with her HCl production in her stomach. So I sent all those with her. So I do all that stuff. Susan, what would be the best for cataracts? Again, I would personally, I'd be using the PEMF coil, and then I'd be using cataracts programs, either from programs tab or cataract stuff in the David Halliday stuff. That's how I would handle those. And again, I tend to think that probably this on the side works the best, but I mean, you can put them right in front of your eye if you want to try to treat things that way, and that might work better for cataracts. Okay, Sarah. So why do you have 15 generators? Oh, okay, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, it's a good question. Number one, I like XM generators because they cost $166 a piece. So they're reasonably priced. That's why I have two GX generators because when I originally signed up for Spooky, I had a friend that guided me in this, and I needed a GX, and that's what so I got one of those, and everything else since then have been XMs, except for when I got the plasma, I decided to get the GX with that, so I'd have the new version. That's why I have two of them. Anyway, the reason I have 15 in here. Well, let's see. I have 15 because I have some that are dedicated to people. I have a brother-in-law who's a quadriplegic and has all kinds of quadriplegic problems. And so I have something dedicated to him. I actually have one or two dedicated to my wife for her digestive problems she tends to have. I have one of them dedicated to our dogs that I run for his liver problems and that sort of stuff. I have one that I'm running an RSV plus sort of thing in it for the various things that are going around right now that have fingernails in it for me, my wife, and my neighbors and close friends. And so on and so forth. I actually have 3 generators right now that I'm using to imprint stickers on. So, I mean, it expands. I have one right now that's not in use. Yeah. I have one that's not in use right now because I use it to making colloidal silver, and I'm not making any right now. So there's a whole list of things. Yeah, in my opinion, you can't have too many, but that's why I have that many. I like having I like having those things. Okay, so can this is for Julian. Julian, yeah. Can PEMF be used to assist with enlarged prostate issues? Yes, it can be. Obviously, the MM programs in there, the presets are using contact mode, which I don't like because I spent too much time working on electronics and getting zapped. Where I just don't like it. But yes, I believe used especially with the frequencies, it should be very effective. Just make sure the BN side is towards your skin. I would definitely use that in a heartbeat. This is Monica. Do cold laser and PEMF create EMF? No, they don't. There's no EMF in there. It's all the frequencies are pretty low and they're self-contained within the device. So the answer to that is nope. They don't make any EMF. Helena, running DB cancer protocol can on an 86-year-old lady with bone cancer in her upper arm, which is 92% tumor with an 8-inch and 8-something bone, 8% bone. Today she fell and broke the bone all the way through the tumor site. Do you recommend PEMF? Yeah, I would use PEMF on any break. PEMF for a couple decades now has been used by orthopedic surgeons for bone breaks to help it heal faster. So I would. That's just my opinion. You're asking me that's my personal opinion because I'm not a treatment person, but for any bone breaks, I'd certainly use the PEMF coil. What programs can be run with PEMF for the eyes, infections or vision problems or eye pain? I'll say, this is from Anonymous. I would run anything with PEMF. It's not a problem. I'd run it for any kind of eye pain. I don't see any problem with running it at all. Albina again. How do you set up to use the double coils? Well, what you do with the double coils, is that the B inside goes against you. Okay, think of it as another magnet. So the other side has the spooky on it and a BN. So the second one would be the BN against spooky. And that's how you get two of them together. That's how I do two. Albina, can you use coils if you have a stent implant? Yes, you can use coils if you have that implants. The only implant you have to worry about with PEMF is electronic stuff, but any physical stuff is just fine. Anonymous, can you use plasma for teeth infections for killing? This we can use contact mode. Yeah, I use it killing. The question is, can you use plasma? Oh, well, can you use plasma for teeth? Absolutely. You use plasma anywhere, assuming you don't have electronic stuff in you, because it'll interfere with that. But yes, you can use plasma anywhere in your body. All right, and you can use PEMF anywhere on your body. So those are your two options for killing. In my opinion, if you use killing your plasma, I'd be using the plasma. I'd be depending on it because that's what it's really good at. CB, can you show the computer steps to run coil with some iPrograms? Sure, I can do that. Let's see. That is, if I can, let me fix this because I can't get my, let's see. Wherever. Oh, thank you. Exclusive. Now, go back in here. That. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Share. And screen. Okay. So here we are in. So we're going to do coil. We'll use generator direct, which is the original one, and then programs and eyes. Let's see what we can find. So many things to look at. Cat eye syndrome, cataracts. I mean, I can certainly do. Let's see. Let's add this one in, and this one in, and this one in. 2 hours and 39 minutes, which is kind of a lot to me. Let's take this one out. Oops, take this one out. Because don't forget, this is not remote, so I don't care if it runs 24/7. This is something I got to stick to my the side of my head. But yes, I can add whatever I want in there, and obviously, but I'm going to have to hold it against my head for 1 hour and 53 minutes, and then of course I could go into control, overwrite. And there we are. I'll start. And now it's running. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem doing that at all. Stop sharing. Okay, now back to the next. All right. So that's how I do that. Hopefully that answers your question. See, Teresa. Thank you. Yes, Teresa saying it's excellent presentation for newbie spooky use. By the way, next month I want to do something that's called biofeedback for beginners, because that's always an interesting thing to discuss. Anyway, hang on a second. Let me tell the dog to be quiet. Okay, back to work. Sorry about that. Okay. My laptop this is Susan. My laptop just crashed. The alternative laptop won't allow Spooky software to run. Okay. So alternative laptop will not allow it to run. What that probably means is there's Microsoft in Windows 11 especially put in something that says, hey, it's something to do with Edge. If you're getting that sort of stuff, there's something called more info. Click on that, and then you can click on run anyway. If that doesn't work, then because it should, take a picture of it, send it to me in email, and I'll figure out how to get it to work on your machine because it'll run on anything. So assuming it's not an Apple, but it'll run. So that would be the best way to do that, Susan. But yeah, look for that. What's it called? I can never remember the name of it, but it's this little blue pop-up, and it says, I'm not going to allow this, but there's a more info that you can click on, and then in there's a run anyway. That'll probably take care of your problem. Catherine, in using the PEMF coil for pain, would you choose a coil preset for pain, or for the area in which you're having the pain? I tend to mix. Generally, if you do for the area, oh, I'm doing for hips. That's sort of to heal hips, and that's great. If you're trying to heal it, and eventually that will solve the pain. On the other hand, if you're trying to get rid of the pain, you should be choosing uh, pain programs. So the 6.5 on the other. Certainly, if I'm doing this on a remote, I'm going to run both. And to be honest, if I can keep it to 2 hours, so I can sit in front of the TV and watch for a while, I'd run both there as well. That's the way I would handle it. Jeremy, Jeremy, what are we doing? How does one use 2x PEMF coils with the boost? What you do if you're using 2x PEMF coils is you're not going to use the boost. You're going to hook the PEMF coils to out 1 and to out 2. That's the way you handle that. Normally you use the boost, and that's fine. But in the case where you're using 2, you're not going to use the boost. You're going to hook directly to the out 1 and out 2 of the same generator. And it has to be the same generator. And the waveforms can account for that. So you'll be okay for that. Anonymous. Can a person with cancer use the cold laser for other uses, such as anemia? Yes. There's no reason you can't do that. You just don't want to use the cold laser on the cancer. Stephanie, you mentioned that only cold lasers use one generator. You mentioned only cold lasers used on one generator. Does that include the XM that has 2? No, you misunderstood. Okay, so what I'm saying is, you have a cold laser, you're going to plug the cold laser into out 1 of a generator. You're not going to have anything plugged into out 2 on that generator. So if you have a blue generator, it's got the 4 ports on it, but all you care about is out 1 and out 2, and all you're going to use is out 1. If you have a silver generator, that actually has 2 generators in it, and you're going to plug the cold laser into out 1 for either G1 or G2. So I think that answers your question, I hope. You mentioned only use one generator. Yes, I think that answers your question. The silver generator has 2 separate generators in it, is what it boils down to. The blue generators is a single generator. Okay. Part of Mexico do you live? I live 20 miles south of Guadalajara. So this is central Mexico. Living conditions are excellent. There's 20,000 retirees, expats here who speak English. So it's really handy to have Spanish, but not when you're out shopping or going to restaurants or anything like that. So that's what living conditions are pretty good. I like it. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. We've been here for 8 years. Let's see. This is Katie. Is there anything that will help with snoring or hemorrhoids? There are programs, yes. There's a lot of different things. Actually, for hemorrhoids, what I've heard is the internal probe works best for treating those, and using that and a hemorrhoid program. Certainly, snoring. There are some snoring ones in there. I don't know how well they work. That snoring is semi-complex of what causes it, and so my wife usually puts a pillow on my face and tries to kill me. But although she actually doesn't, because I have a CPAP machine she makes me use. But yeah, certainly there are programs out there with snoring, and definitely for hemorrhoids as well. And you can actually use the laser, the cold laser for the hemorrhoids as well. So that's a possibility. All right, Alan. That's a long last name, Alan. I read where it said that one should not use devices above the shoulder. Okay. What you shouldn't use above the shoulder is contact mode, because contact mode runs electricity through your body. So running it in your neck or through your brain isn't such a good idea. But everything else you can use above. I mean, there's other things like the cold laser. You want to keep it away from your eyes because you don't want to blind yourself. That sort of stuff. But essentially, you can use anything above the shoulder except for contact mode. John, for gray hair treatment, is it better to use PEMF coil or cold laser? What I would use? I'd probably use PEMF. I'd use the PEMF and I'd use the wrist is what I use. And the reason is that for gray hair, you're treating stuff that is at surface level, and that's what the cold laser is good for. So I'd use this guy, and it'd be one of these sort of whatever, and I'd use the gray hair stuff in the David Halliday. Okay, Marta, for dental, do you put the PEMF inside the mouth? No, for dental, you put the PMF coil inside the mouth like you do with the laser twin. Nope. You put the laser twin inside the mouth because it doesn't have big of a penetration, and so you want it right next to it. The PEMF coil penetrates from 6 to 8 inches. You don't need to do that. So you can put it on the outside, which is what I do. Literally, I'll put it here because that's where my problem is. I'll use my wife's headband and wrap it around under my nose to hold it in place, and I'll sit there and treat it that way. And that works really well. Teresa, when using the PMF coil for a dental issue, all right, did I just answer this? Yes. Okay, so if you're using the cold laser twin for dental, that goes inside your mouth, and I only use one of them, and it goes next to wherever it is I'm trying to treat. If I'm using the PMF coil, it goes on the outside of my mouth, and it has a bigger treatment area, and it goes much deeper. Let's see, Bronca. I want to treat my body with specific frequency, for example, 174 hertz. Can I just type this frequency and run it? The answer to that is no. No, you actually can't. What you have to do that, you need to create a program, which is in the file menu. There's a file create program, and you can create 174 hertz in there and name it something, and then you save it, and then it's going to be in your custom program list. And then to run it, you're going to have to go and choose a shell preset and decide, am I going to do this remote or however you're going to do it, and then you add your saved program in that, and then load it in the generator and run it. I hope that makes sense. And by the way, I've seen that before. So in here, let's see, am I doing this? No, I'm not. So let's see. I want to do a share and screen. Okay, so this anymore. So what that means is, because that can be complex. We go into file here and we say, I want to create a program. And I want it to be 174 hertz. That's what I want to call it. Oops, here it is. And down here in frequencies, I say 174. Just like that. And then I do a save. I save it, yes I do. And then I go into presets and I say, I want to, and I'm going to do a shell. And since we're doing coil mode here, we're going to do coil. And I'm going to say Spooky2 Generator Direct. And then over in here in programs, if I type in 174, they'll search for it. Oops. It's important to get rid of the other stuff first. And hopefully something here in the bottom, because a lot of things have 174 in it, but we're going to create one specifically for 174. And I'll give you a hint, if I turn off all these other things and just look at custom, it might be there. Look, there it is. That's what this does. So I can, this tells what databases to look for. In this case, I want to look custom because that's why I saved it. I can double click on this, add it here. And now I can go into control and I can run it on this generator, overwrite, and voila, that's the guy we're running. And then hertz, stop. So that's how you do a single frequency or any list of frequencies you want to do that you found wherever you found them. Okay, back to this. Q&A. I hope that answered your question. And you got a free demo with that. Okay, Teresa. Placement of PMF. Okay, thank you, Teresa. Jacqueline, can I use the AHA Halo for cataracts? You could. I don't know if I can't remember if there's an AHA Halo program for it. Don't forget with the AHA Halo, which I have one, it has a specific list of programs, and you can't change them. You can put 30 into it, but you only have 100 or so to choose from put in there. And I can't remember where the cataracts is in there. For those of you who don't know what the AHA Halo is, that's a new device from Spooky that it's small, meaning it is. I wish I had something here was about the size of it. It's smaller than my cell phone. It's about half the width and half the height. It's a little rechargeable device that uses scalar energy. Okay, and it almost is a push this to heal. You have to choose what you want to work on. And like I said, mine went with my wife today, so I don't have to show it. And I don't remember where the cataracts is one of the programs that's included. Okay. Live. All right, now, Cassidy. If I sleep on a grounding mat, would I be able to run the rope remote? Yes. Grounding mats and Spooky get along just fine. You can, that's not an issue. Ellen, can you use the PMF coil on a melanoma on the face? Yes, you could. Um, I don't, there's no reason not to. Obviously, I would use, if you had plasma, I'd be using that. But yes, you can use it, the PMF coil, you can use it on the face. So that's not a problem. Carol, I believe leukemia is in the bone marrow. Yeah, it is. I just don't know how, like I said, I don't know how it affects the blood. So, but I think you're right. It's been a long time, but I think leukemia affects your production of blood. It doesn't actually live in the cells. So as long as that's what it is, the blood detox is a good idea. And I know blood detox is an active part of a lot of the cancer protocols. So it should be safe. I just, don't have that answer on the top of my head. I can answer all kinds of hardware things off the top of my head, but not that. Anonymous, what's the best for tinnitus? That's all the interesting question. You can use where I'd start with tinnitus is I'd start with I'd be running stuff on a remote and I'd be doing the cold laser twin for that and see if I could solve it that way. And I'd be doing at least 2 generators for that. Aeneas, I think. Um, can we use plasma for teeth infection for killing? Since we cannot use contact on face, and PMF are not for killing. You can do killing with PMF and cold laser. It's just they're not all that great at it. But yes, you can certainly use plasma for teeth for a tooth infection. Although I've had really good luck using the PMF for a tooth infection. It penetrates really well and it does handle the frequencies. It's just not a hammer sort of thing. The plasma is. If you have a plasma and you have an infection, that's where you should be using. That's what I would do because it's really good at that. Not everybody has plasma though. Michael, we do not have any serious issues. Good for you. We routinely multiply programs. We routinely multiple programs every day. Some twice a day programs like collagen, circulation, blood sugar, ATP, DNA. So you can run them. Sure. I mean, you can run programs as often as you want for the most part. There's very few exceptions. The killing stuff can get interesting, but the healing stuff, it's not a problem. These are healing things you're doing. So, I mean, you can run healing 24/7 on a remote, and a lot of people do. So, but yeah, you don't have a problem doing that stuff. For the most part, most spooky things, if you don't need the frequency, it doesn't do anything. That means, what programs for the eyes can we use PMF or cold laser for infection versus pain or vision disorders? Are they all safe? I believe all the programs for eye stuff is safe. If you're doing eye stuff, I would not use cold laser, period. I just wouldn't use it because you're somewhere around the eyes, unless you're going to, I mean, you could use it to do blood cleansing. You conceivably, if you thought it might work, but I don't think it will, you could do some of that stuff for, you could do eye things and do it in the wrist laser, but I don't believe that would be effective. I believe that the most effective way for eye stuff is the PEMF coil, literally. That's what I believe. Monica, can grounding sheets be used while doing any treatment with this spooky? Yes, the grounding sheets are not a problem, no matter what you're doing with spooky, even scale out. AR, is there a centralized treatment result reference where our users could tracking results? No, there's not. And there's a whole bunch of reasons they're not that I could get into, but essentially there isn't any of that. All you can do is talk to other spooky users and see what worked for them and what didn't, and try it yourself. And believe me, there's a whole bunch of legal reasons that doesn't exist. Rhonda, what would you use for whooping cough? Well, one of the things I do for whooping cough is I'd be getting mucus samples and running it in the sample digitizer. And actually I did do a sample digitizer with a hunt and kill for that. That's my personal opinion. I believe that's the most beneficial way to any lung problems or sinus or whatever it is to use mucus, because the chances are those things are in there. Barring that, whooping cough, it tends to be a lung sort of stuff. So you could do contact mode, front and back, for each lung. That's what I would do for that. Anonymous, if you got inguinal hernia, I don't know what that is. If somebody told me I had that, or if you texted me and said I have this, the first thing I do is go to Google and find out what it is, because I have no idea what it is. I mean, there's hernia things you can look up, but it may be, I don't know. And I've done that. That's one of the things one of the techniques if you have something and you have an actual name for it, but if you can't find it in the Spooky database, do a Google search on it. You're going to find out that it's related to this or that, and then you can find programs for that. That actually works really well. That's what I'd recommend. Okay, now, God, what are some good uses for frequencies after my tooth that's hollowed out? I would be using gum healing and gum infection frequencies on that. Again, I like the PEMF coil because it's handy. I would use that probably. Tammy, when using the coil for knee pain from a torn meniscus and tendonitis, should I be stationary over the area of treatment? What I would tend to do for that is I would tend to do, I put the PEMF coil on the one side for a while and put it on the other, or on the left part for one treatment and the right part for the other treatment. Although my wife had a meniscus tear a couple of years ago, and I imprinted stickers on it, and 2 weeks later she didn't have it anymore. And we were I can't remember where we stuck it, but like I said, I'm a believer in imprinting stickers. Send me an email if you want the details on that, and I'll send you the preset I use to do that. Like I said, I really like stickers. And theoretically, you cannot repair a torn meniscus. I just don't believe it. Nor would I kill a skin infection with PEMF coil? You could. I mean, you could. It depends what you have to. Certainly, I mean, depends on what you want to use. Contact mode would probably be pretty good, although it's the skin infection that can be a challenge. I would either PEMF or cold laser, the wrist one. Either one would be the ones I would tend to use for a skin infection. What generator would you suggest? What generator would you suggest for metastasized prostate cancer? I'm sure you have numerous ones. Which ones also have abdominal issues? Okay, you're new to Spooky. All right, and that's a complex question. You're talking about cancer. So here's the deal with cancer. If you have cancer, if you can get a plasma system, you should get a plasma system. Plasma is the most powerful killing device that Spooky makes, and that's what you want. You want to kill it. All right. If you don't have the money, because now you're talking about $3,500 for that system. If you don't have the money for that, the next best one is the GX Pro system. The GX Pro system is one silver generator and a whole bunch of attachments. And that's the second best way to treat cancer. It's about $1,000, although I'd spend another $200 and get an extra blue generator so you can do stickers and do some other stuff. That would be the my recommendation for the second best way. And you can treat the cancer with anything lower than that as well, but the lower down you go, the lower the power and that sort of stuff. And will it work? Yes, I've seen people that say they've treated their cancer with a single blue $166 generator. So it's possible, but the main recommendation is plasma number one. If not that, the GX Pro kit. And if you decide to do that, send me an email because I have a really nice series of 2 videos I did on doing the cancer DB protocol. That's a very basic of here's exactly how to do it. You can read the manual for it because it's a document, but I read it about 4 times and then I had to do my own thing because it didn't make any sense to me. And I've been doing this for 6 years. Okay, Noor. Or maybe laser and contact will be better, faster than what? You responded to your own question or something else, and I don't know what it was. So laser and contact will be faster. It could be, depending on what you're trying to do. Brenda, when treating a cat with PEMF, do you need to adjust anything? I don't think so. PEMF is a fairly gentle process anyway, and you really shouldn't be playing around with the settings for PEMF, so I wouldn't. If the cat seems to be having a bad reaction, what I would do is I'd move the PEMF away a little bit, give it a few inches because that'll cut down the power. But I don't believe it'd be a problem at full power. Will this kill genital herpes? The answer is it should. I mean, there's genital herpes programs out there, and again, how you treat that, what treatment modality is debatable. I'm not one that likes to run electricity. If I was in World War II, maybe electricity in the genitals would be a good idea, but I'm not. So I would tend to I'd probably be using the PEMF or the cold laser to treat that personally. That's assuming I didn't have a laser. I mean a plasma. If you have a plasma, first choice for killing anything, by far. Okay, Rich. How should I program? How should I program Spooky Gen X0 for diabetes? I don't know what a Gen X0 is. Um, Certainly, there are diabetes programs out there. Um, if you go look in the video library, Brad Johnson, who's a type 1 diabetic, has done several very interesting things on diabetes. And so it's worthwhile to go look at that stuff and see what you can find. But I don't know what you mean by Gen X zero. Certainly, it's a Gen X. It's a spooky. You're going to be using shell presets and whatever programs there are. Okay. Oh, Gen X Pro. Sorry, I see that, Rich. Yeah. I mean, again, you're going to go load a shell preset. You're going to go find some diabetes programs in the programs tab. You throw it in it, and for diabetes, I'd probably be using remote mode because it's a system-wide issue, or you could use contact mode. Again, go find if you can't find Brad's video on that, send me an email and I'll find it for you. He did a really good one. He's really good. Brad is a great practitioner, and he's done a lot of stuff. So that's where I would do. Okay, Christian. Christian, thank you. Keep remote away from grounding that. You need to keep the remote away from the grounding net. I think it's debatable. You're grounding your. I don't know. I understand what grounding mats do. I don't think it'll make a difference, and that's my understanding. But I mean, you can make sure it's not on there. It's insulated, so that's not going to be a problem. But it's going to ground out your skin, so you might want to keep the pad away from that part of your skin. Okay, Mark, is it recommended to sleep on the PEMF mat? Okay, now you're talking about the PEMF mat, so I assume you're talking about the mats that Spooky sells, which that's outside the realm there. I don't have one of those, so I can't answer that. The PEMF we've been talking about is the PEMF coil used with the Spooky2 system. The mirror mate mats, and there's several of them. I don't know anything about those. Let's see. Mark, rephrase my question. If you have a hernia rupture, how do you apply PEMF or either coil or the? Well, if I have a hernia or a rupture, I mean, I'm going to put the PEMF coil as close to the area as possible. I'm going to run whatever programs I can for that. The programs have their own times in them, and I'm going to run them. I'd be running them twice a day or more to try to get that healed. That's how I would handle that. Okay, so now the question is, I see, I'm looking at the end of the chat because I'm not going to go back through all the chat stuff just to see what is in there. So do you have any more Q&A questions? Oh, is tinnitus healing or killing mode? It's healing. Tinnitus is not caught. Killing is for pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Okay, virtually everything. Let's see. And did I get viruses? Yeah, I did. Everything else is healing, essentially. That's the way that works. What else we got? Allergy stickers for all allergens, agents. Interesting one from Christian about the stickers. Yes, stickers. If you use the what's her name? Anyway, if you use the method where you do like 3 seconds of one, yes, you need to put it back to 180. Otherwise, when you do the biofeedback, it's only going to run those for 3 minutes apiece, or 3 seconds apiece, or whatever it is. Stephanie R. That's what it is. I actually have my own preset I use for stickers, which is actually loosely based on David Halliday's concept. He has his own sticker shell, and even that I didn't like. And that's what I use. And one of the things I like about it is I've adjusted the dwell multiplier in that, so I don't have to actually change the 180 from stuff. I can add in whatever it wants, and it's going to run each one for 1 second or 10 seconds or whatever I'm doing. Okay, Should I run the baseline when run a scalar BFB? Can you run? That's an interesting one. I've never even looked at that. But the answer to that is no. I don't run the baseline for anything. My understanding is the baselines didn't really make that much difference, but they never took it back out. If you're looking at more detail, then what you could do is just you could run the same biofeedback, but change the loops in the control panel to 2, and it'll run twice as long. But I don't use the baseline. I don't believe in it, and so I don't do it for anything. Okay. Robert, are databases independent of programs or other databases? If I upgrade a program, okay. Okay, so here's what Robert said. Are databases independent of programs or other databases? In essence, if I upgrade the program, do I have to worry about each person's databases for updating? Okay, so where we are with this, Robert, you have to be really careful. It's one of the first things when I do one-on-one teaching, you have to understand the difference between a preset and a program. Okay, presets are a text file, single one, and so they're in the preset stuff, or you can save something, you get a shell, you add some stuff in it, and then you can save it in the presets tab. That is a saved preset, okay? And those, and when you update, by the way, those are just fine. They get left alone and none of that changes. So updating the Spooky program doesn't change. Now, programs, on the other hand, programs are a fixed set of program libraries, but you can combine things together and save it. And if you do, it goes in the custom database, or you can do the file like we did earlier, and that goes in the custom database. Or if you do a biofeedback, that goes in the BFB database. Regardless, when you update Spooky2, none of that gets affected. It all stays, assuming that you don't do a delete. If you delete the program, then everything can go with it. So don't do that. If you just, oh yeah, the April 11th one is out right now, so I'm going to download it, install it. It just does fine, and everything you had will still be there. I think that'll answer the question. Gabrielle, can we use cold laser to quit smoking? I don't know. I don't know what there is in there. I've never really looked that up. That's a question that there's several places I'd look. I'd actually look for in programs. I'd be doing a search on nicotine, that sort of stuff. And we can look at smoking, but I look for nicotine because that's the problem. And I mean, this is a nicotine addiction, so I think you could find some programs on that. You conceivably could find some things in the presets, and barring that, I would be out at Spooky Right for Life Facebook page and seeing what people have done for that. Okay, nicotine is healing. You're talking about using nicotine in a program or preset. Yes, and nicotine has a number of interesting uses these days. But the topic was to quit smoking, so I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So, do we have any more questions that you could put in the Q&A, because I can follow those? If you get a chance, hopefully she's going to send out something where you can go and rate me. I'd appreciate whatever ratings you want to do. It helps me move up in the grand scheme of things to where I get more time or more opportunities to do presentations. Okay. Okay. Well, if that's it, with no more questions on the open question, there's some. I read a question on Q&A about female hair loss. I think I answered that. Didn't I say that if you're going to use well, maybe I didn't see it. There's some nice female balding things in both the programs and in the David Halliday presets. And for those, I'd probably use the cold laser wrist and move it around for them. Anything else? Well, I'm not sure I answered I don't remember the female balding, so whatever. Okay, is there anything else we can do here? Okay, I think we're just about done then. If there's no more questions, then we're gonna call this a night and let's see. Oh, okay, sorry. Done. Replays. That'll be posted by the spooky people in a day or two. Um, possibly as early as tomorrow. Uh, and that'll be available. And I generally end up with them on my YouTube page as well. Uh, Theoretically, Smalley should be asking for feedback. I would guess. If you can't figure out a place, send me an email and I'll send you the link of where to do it. And let's see. No, I can't do it. There is no quick demo for Scalar Digitizer. So Rhonda has a question about, I've never used the Scalar Digitizer. Okay. Can you give me a quick demo? The answer to that is no. There is no quick demo for Scalar Digitizer. And the reason for that is it's the most complex setup there is in Spooky. And once you've done it a couple times, it's not too bad. And if you create your own checklist, which I have done, you remember where to put everything. It's not too bad, but it's its own thing. There's actually, what's her name? There's somebody from Australia who a couple months ago did a great presentation on Scalar Digitizer. So you need to go find that. And if you can't find it, let me know and I'll send you a link to it. But she did a really good presentation on it. It was a really good one. So it's well outside of what we did here. And to do a decent job of it, this is a multi-camera setup is what it boils down to, because it's particular way you plug this in, plug that in. I mean, that sort of stuff. So, but yes, it is possible to do. The Scalar Digitizer has some advantages as well, because it doesn't scan for pathogens. It's scanning for whatever. That's how you respond to frequencies. So that's an advantage. It's mostly an advantage. Robert, how long should a baseline? Baseline takes as long as the original scan. So right now with the GX scan, the biofeedback scan, it takes just under 19 minutes. If you do a baseline with that, it doubles the time. So, or if you just did a baseline, it would take about 19 minutes. And then you run it and you use the baseline as well, and that takes another 19 minutes. So always good to ask the third main question. A quick description on what to attach it to out one or out two. So I think this goes back to the biofeedback scan using the Scalar Digitizer. And generally what I do is I connect out one, it takes two generators. I'm using out one on each generator. So that's important. So I'm using on G1, out one, I hook that to the Scalar Digitizer itself. On out one of G2, I hook that to the BNC connector on the front of the transmitter. That's how I do that. And I always do it that way, because otherwise I get my hands crossed and whatever. So that's what I do for that. I mean, so to recap, so the G1 generator, the out one, the cable goes from there to the Scalar Digitizer, which then again plugs into the link, whatever, on the scalar, on transmitter. And the out one on G2 goes to the BNC connector on the front of the transmitter. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, what's the baseline for? Okay, what's the baseline for? Well, back in the day, John White decided that it would be more if he were to do a baseline first of actually what we told people to do is for like contact mode, you'd take two pads and you'd stick them together and then you'd run a baseline, because now you're not scanning anything except the cables and whatever, and so it would only pick up noise. Of course, you just wasted some contact modes because they're not coming back apart. And then what you do is use new ones and stick them on, and then it compares that to the baseline. That was the idea. It, like a lot of things in Spooky Land, it was a really good theory, but it never seemed to make a difference. That was the thing. The results people got, and by results, what I'm saying is they got the 10 frequencies, now they're running killing on the 10 frequencies. That didn't seem to work any better than if they just ran a standard biofeedback and used the 10 frequencies in it. And so the general view in Facebook and with most people is there's no good reason to do a baseline. Hopefully that answers your question. What's the best stream for rosacea? I do not know. I have not done the research on it. I certainly would go out and do a search in programs for rosacea. The rosacea is a skin redness, I think. I tend to see that as systemic. Um, if it's truly systemic, I'd be using the rosacea programs and remotes. Conceivably, you could use the rosacea programs and the PEMF coil. But that would be, because it's right here. And so, and I'd definitely try that if I had rosacea. Let's see. Anonymous, can you explain more between BFB with and without baseline? Okay, so you're doing a biofeedback. And what happens in the program, if you we only have a biofeedback with baseline, actually all it does is it runs through the whole thing twice and then takes the best of both worlds. That's what it does. Okay. So if you're actually choosing BFB with baseline, originally there was a button you could push and it's still there that says, I'm going to do an independent baseline and then base everything on it. That was the other thing that I already discussed. But if you're talking about the biofeedback with baseline preset, all it does is it runs through the biofeedback 2 times and averages it out. That's all it does. Hopefully that answers your question. Oh, somebody said it was a fun presentation. Well, I try to make it a little fun. Okay, what else? No, rosacea is a parasitic. I didn't know that. If it's a parasitic, then I'd start with terrain. I'd be doing detoxes for that. So, okay. Anything else? Well, we will count to 10, and if we have nothing, then that's going to be it. 10, 9. When you save a BFB, are you supposed to save it twice? No, it only saves once. You get the first screen and it allows you to save the results as a print file, and then the second screen actually saves the actual BFB the 10 frequencies. BFB is a biofeedback. What's your email? Is spookytechhelp@gmail.com. That's SPOOKYTECHELP@gmail.com. Let's see. I typed it in right. Okay. Yes, you can use a coil on an eye that's a fake line. That's not a problem. And so you continue for parasites. Yes, you can run pieces of the terrain for parasites if you want. That's not a problem. I mean, you don't have to run the entire terrain. You can do step 4, step 5, or whatever you want to do. And if you look, you'll actually find there's detoxes for parasites that are within the programs tab. I mean, essentially, that's where terrain came from. It's a chain preset of just using stuff that's in the programs tab. So if you know what kind of parasites you want to do, search for those in the programs tab, and you'll find programs for them. We can copy links from Q&A. Yeah, that's we can copy your links from the Q&A, but the chat box cannot be counted. Well, that's interesting. The problem is I don't type in the Q&A. I didn't know that. I don't know what Smalley does as far as, I think you get if you signed up and attended, you'll get an email saying it's available, and that way you can watch it for your video. Let's see. Type agent. Let's try this. Any chance I got it right? Hey, it looks good. Try that. Okay, I typed in my email and the Q&A, so hopefully you can get it that way. Terrain have 11 days. No, you don't have to run terrain for 11 days. I mean, to run it all, you need to run it for 11 days. So the answer to that is yes. If you're running pieces of it, each piece runs essentially 1 day. And like I said, the stuff that's in terrain, you can just do your own terrain. You can go get a shell preset and use up the detox stuff from the programs and put it in there. You're trying to do something. Let's see. All right. Hopefully we're caught up. Type fast if we're not caught up. I want to make sure everybody's questions gets answered. That's important to me. Keep in mind that I'm very active in the Facebook group. So, and I'm the resident tech guy. So all the Windows questions and all that crap, I do all that stuff. And I take care of most of the generator errors, which unfortunately a lot of us have seen. All that sort of stuff. I usually work on those, and I'm about 98% of getting those solved. So if you have those are always fun. There's a really nice freeware program you can install on your Spooky so it won't update, which is really nice to have. But that I have to handle privately in an email. Because all my spooky machines are on the internet because I don't actually ever touch those machines. I do it all from a remote desktop. So this machine that I'm on right now, that I was showing you, that's a remote desktop into one of my spooky machines. That's what it's there for. So that really, if you have multiples, it really comes in handy. And my wife really likes it because she uses this plasma all the time. So she goes and loads the plasma using her iPad because it's just remote controlling a Charlotte. Okay. Um, Charlotte. Not a touchdown. Dirty G's by Dr. Ben Lynch. Never heard of it, but thank you for putting it in. Okay. No, you can't run a PMF with the remote on the same generator. The problem is that it saps energy. And so you end up with not as much power for either one of those. That's why you don't want to do it. Ooh, I like this. I've had much success using PEMF on arthritic joints. Cool, thanks, Jeremy. Okay. People are still thinking about this. As long as people are thinking and asking questions, I'll stay here. I don't know about Smalley. Although it's during the day for her, so she doesn't have the excuse I do. It's almost 9 p.m. where I live. I don't remember if anybody asked, but if you really need serious help, I do one-on-ones, so that's not a problem. I don't see anything else. No, you don't feel, generally you don't feel anything when you're under plasma. Now there's a better chance of having Hertz reactions on plasma because it does such an efficient job of killing, of killing. But as far as being zapped like you are in with contact mode, no, you're not gonna see that. You can't feel it. What USB cables do I use? I use the trip light cables from that I get from Amazon. You need to email me, Don, for one-on-one. Annette, replay the counseling which way through. Ooh, good question. Annette says you'll get the replay when asking to rate the scores. You know, I get so many emails. I don't for the ones I attend, I don't remember getting them. I get 50 emails a day in each of my email accounts. So, but yeah, I think that's where they're supposed to come. At Spooky, do you have a direct email? Uh, don't, I'm a volunteer, Charlotte. Keep that in mind. I am a Spooky partner. I do not actually work for Spooky. No, no. No problem. So Charlotte, that is my email address. You can send me email to. Plasma is great for head and neck. Yes, plasma is no problem. Only contradiction of plasma is if you have some sort of electrical implant. So what's our question? Facebook. And well, if you log into Facebook and do a search for Spooky Right for Life, you'll find it, and you have to join it. Spooky2 Right for Life. Sorry, Spooky2. And the most of the admins there have a lot more experience than I do, and have cured. One of the main people, has totally beaten Lyme disease, which is no easy feat. And I mean, people have had all kinds of issues. It's a great resource, one of the best ones around. Yes, Kathy, if you email me, hopefully you've been the email. I'll send you a link to my video. But I did a video. You can find it in Spookyland too. That I did a plasma video in November, I think, that went through all that of how to hook it up and all that. So can Mercury train insurance select. Non-mercury. No, you only do non-mercury terrain if you have mercury fillings. And if you have that whatever it was called, I don't know what it's called, then it's better to do the terrain minus mercury. Other than that, root canals don't matter. Oh, is that it? Oh, I guess that's it. Is that the Facebook group? Yeah, wait up. Oh, I did more for me. Oh, wait a minute. It's thinking about it. Our grip. Anyway, okay, so okay, Charlotte, thank you. Yep, that's what it's gonna do. Yep, that is the Spooky2 group. Thank you for putting that in. And yes, there's a bunch of us are very active in that. It looks like there's 7 things out there right now, and half of them mention me. So detoxing from COVID. Most people detoxing from COVID. There's a number of programs out there, and most people are doing that via remote. That's what I'd recommend for that. Charlotte, how do you find YouTube? Oh shoot. You find in YouTube, it's YouTube at Spooky. Let me think. Spooky Tech Help. It's the same thing in my email. So it's @ Spooky Tech Help. Can you measure the scalar field strength? No, no, actually you can't. I don't know of any way to measure the scalar field strength. Sorry. No. The question, somebody in the Q&A, do you use the ferret coils on the aftermarket USB? Nope, you don't need those. You can leave them on there because it might come in handy. I actually, on where my spooky is, on the other side of the wall is where my scalar stuff is. And when I was running the plasma in the living room, I was getting generator errors over there. And so what I did is I used the ferret coil cable over there in that system, and that took care of it. But it doesn't do a good enough job of filtering it out locally. But the trip light cables have actually 2 smaller filters in on each end, and it does an excellent job of getting rid of the interference that causes the generator error. Literally, I mean, one of the ways I was testing it, I had a preset that would cause the generator every freaking time. And so what I did is I hooked all this stuff up. I had the computer on one side of the central on a table. I had my XM generator on the other side of it, and that was hooked in using with the original cables. And I had the long plasma tube, which causes more problems, sitting on top of it. It would crash every time. I changed out the USB cable and it would run fine in that configuration. So there was no anything of distance or any of that stuff. So I'm a real believer in that cable. That makes a big difference. Okay. The USB cables I'm using, the Trip Light, you can email me and I'll send you a link. The Trip Light 6-foot is what I use with I can't remember what it's called. That's in here. Hang on. I'll get you the name of it anyway. Spooky. Open. That is. It is a Trip Light USB 2.0. Oh, with ferrite chokes in it. That's a trick. So it has its own little chokes in it. It doesn't use those green donuts. Hopefully that makes sense. Spelling. Yeah, spelling is important in search engine spooky. Yes, that is correct. It has no spell check built in. That was a really good point. I think we are done. This is your time now to type something else in. I'm actually looking at the chat as well, because there aren't 14,000 things going in the chat at the same time. No, that's not me. That, Robert, that is the link for the main spooky set of videos that Spooky2 owns. So, I mean, and it could be in there. I don't know. I don't follow it that much, but there's a bunch of videos in there. For a while, they quit putting videos out there. There's a year or two with videos that aren't in there, but I think they're putting them back in there now, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay, what USB cable? Hang on. Let's see, that's in here. Let me get you the link for that. That's in this one. That's in Spooky Research. And that is try that. I think that's it. I don't know. I mean, I know the frequencies for the pineal gland, pineal gland, but I don't know. I've never tried to do it with the PEMF. I mean, you certainly could. How long do imprinters last? That's a good question. How long do imprinter stickers last? Well, if you don't use them, in my opinion, they last weeks. If you keep them away from um, magnetism and sunlight, they last weeks. It depends on you. If you're actually using them, then they actually can last weeks as well. My neighbor, I make some for her and she actually sticks them on with Band-Aids. I mean, they're sticky ones. And for us, they'll stick on us for 3 or 4 days. And then we just put a new one on. For our next door neighbor, she doesn't have that many of them. She'll hold them on with a Band-Aid and she'll replace the Band-Aid and put it back on. She'll wear them for 2 to 4 weeks. So they last a long time. Okay. All right. I need to shut this thing down. I got to call my wife. So, she's in Arizona right now. All right. If there's no more questions, then we are done. And please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very responsive in email and definitely on my Telegram group. So, and I can help with just about anything from that point of view. And I'm also very responsive. And so are the other admins who are very smart out in Facebook. If you're not in that Facebook group, you really should be. All right. Thanks a lot. We're done for tonight.